I get that. Okay. Our police chief wants to speak. So.
It's okay then. First off, we've never met, but it's nice to meet both of you. We've worked with bars in the area that have had problems in the past, most notably Maple Leaf. John Rogers has met with him, we've talked with him, we've gone through things before. You know, in the end, your business is your business, okay? And it only becomes my business when it becomes a problem. Okay, I don't pretend to know how to run a bar, and I don't need to know how to run a bar. But you do in order to do that. In the end, Mr. Manny, Mr. Marone will not be there at the calls when things go south. It'll be me or my officers responding when you have a problem, okay? So obviously part of the purpose of this is to make sure that we try to avoid these problems, and we're here to assist you. But there's a lot of issues and a lot of questions that come up. I've worked with Mr. Scheinbaum in the past in terms of his property as well. So it's not unusual. I have some specific questions because one of the things that I didn't understand at first is the application comes from Marquita Hutchins. I'm assuming that you, yet everything seems to be directed towards you.
Because he runs it.
Okay.
But one name had to go on the license, and so.
Okay, which license is that?
The liquor license, so that's why I put it on the application, because, you know.
Understood, but do you understand that as the liquor permit holder that your presence is required at the establishment during the business hours by the Liquor Commission?
No, I did not. His name is on there as part of the owner,
okay.
But it depends on whose name.
You know that the majority of the time that you're open, you have to be there at the establishment. That's required. And this goes back then to your business, because this is part of your business that you guys need to know. I mean, because we've had that issue before with other bars, Maple Leaf in particular, where the owner, the liquor permit holder, is not present. That's a violation. I believe there's a memo in there that says that there's going to be parking at 201 Clare. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong. Lieutenant Seifman, the 201 Clare is a condemned building at this time?
That's correct. That's why it's an empty parking lot.
Well, which is why you can't go on the property, sir, because it's a condemned building. Okay. Not only that, it's my understanding as well that that property is up for sale. And should be transferred soon. As a matter of fact, part of that Clare Avenue apartments have been sold. So
the one that was sold was the building before that.
Well, again, I understand that, but I also know that the whole property is being sold because I've been in contact with Sarah Finelli, Mr. Hoffman's attorney, numerous times because we've shut them down for nuisance abatement. So to say that you're going to use their parking lot when it's going to transfer ownership isn't really a fair representation of what could happen in the future. Now, I don't know when those sales are supposed to be, but I do know that, in fact, that the buildings themselves are condemned and that parking lots could transfer ownership at any time, at which point you won't be able to use that anymore.
The parking lots that were used to be used in the past, okay, was the parking lot across the street belongs to Dorothy Campbell, okay? And
could you come up and talk in the mic for the record?
I'm sorry, okay. The last time that the owner of the bar went before the planning commission was, I'd say at least 10 years ago when everything was done and was approved. At that point, the additional parking, which never was used, there's never a need to be used in additional parking, was with Dorothy Campbell, who owns the building across the street, which is empty. I was not able to reach Dorothy. I know that she's still somewhere, I just couldn't reach her. And then the building next door, which is empty, also they have the parking spaces. The real estate agent told me that the owner of the property is away. But in the past, whenever there's been overflow, it's being sold now to a school. The owner, the real estate agent did not believe there'd be a problem with using it. But again, I didn't have that in writing. Mr. Hoffman told me that the building is closed down and it is condemned. He is trying to sell it. He doesn't have any money in his pocket yet, that much I can tell you. The property in between was bought by someone already. So that's why we can't use that one. But in all the years that the bars have been open, there's never been a problem with parking using the 45 plus 5 other spaces that are in front of the garages, which are not shown, but those are legal spaces. Plus there's 3 on the side.
To me, look, it's not an issue. It just kind of goes to the point of everything that's coming up here today. Okay, and please don't take this in the wrong way. Okay, there's a lot of things that are being said here that are going to be. Okay, and there's a lot of things that are being planned here, including these plans that, quite frankly, are a fair representation of what's going on. If you're telling me that you're going to, I didn't say that you're going to use the parking lot at 201 Clare. That's something that was presented to this commission.
Right.
I'm not the one that said that the cameras were in place at the time, or that filed a a security protocol that said there was going to be cameras in place, and then came before the commission, and now they are not, or at least the vast majority of them are not. My officers went up there and verified the information. Look, I'm willing to work with anybody and do anything to assist them, but you can't come here with a half-baked plan or something that's not totally in place and then present it the way and say that it is. That's not a fair representation.
At what point was there ever a request for cameras to be put up?
It's not a matter of request. It's what was presented to this commission as a
So it
protocol.
was presented, the contractor, Monarch Security, the cameras were bought immediately, $2,217, $1,800. All this was paid. He says he cannot put them up on the stack hole. You're right.
Okay, the cameras inside weren't even operational until today. Okay, I'll tell you, look, from my own standpoint, this is just to the owners here. If I'm coming up with a business plan, quite frankly, where I have to warn people that are coming into my business, I'm changing my business plan. Because that's an issue for us as a department and as a community in terms of safety. Why would you try to put together a business, quite frankly, where you have to warn people to see if they have weapons when they come in?
I think that's any bar out nowadays that they should have.
Look, I've been to many bars where you just walk right in. But I mean, and it speaks
I
to simply
understand that,
to
but
the
that's
point
not
of,
always safe either. It's more of a safety, a precaution of a safety. It's not that we're just always expecting someone to come in with weapons, but nowadays people have weapons who shouldn't have weapons, so we're screening to try to make sure that they know.
There are many bars in the city where the people aren't wanted. I'm not telling you that you're doing anything wrong. I'm simply saying that perhaps you need to re-examine what it is you're proposing in order to make it safer for yourself. I believe that you have your heart in the right place. I'm just telling you from a police department standpoint, the things that you have, the things that you have presented to this commission either have not been completed or not completely true. Okay? And my concern from the department is I don't need my police officers going up there to handle the affairs of your business, because quite frankly, as I said, no one will be here taking those calls. Mr. Madden and Mr. Moran, it will be my department that's there, and the surrounding department communities if there's a problem. So all I want to do is make sure that when you come in here that you have a business that's viable. Certainly we don't want the business empty, but you have to at least do the things that you'll say you do before you come here to do otherwise. That's my concerns. I'm speaking on behalf of the police department, but certainly we don't want to discourage any small business owner, but I think you have to put things in the right place and in the right perspective in terms of what you're trying to accomplish and do it correctly. To the chair, I'm done.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief.
No, I'm good. I've heard her.
You want to say it? I think what you're getting as a general consensus here is that as fellow community members here, you have a great start of a plan. Unfortunately, I wish you would have brought this to us in December of 2013 before you even opened your doors. Now we have a year later, and this is a proposal. It's not really how you've been operating. And we've got a year of really bad operation. If you would be in agreement to agree to a waiver on our decision, we would like to see you implement this plan and come back and see if you can actually get the cameras up. Do everything you're proposing you're going to do, fill in some of these holes, and present an actual plan that doesn't have so many holes in it. If not, I mean, we have to make a decision as a board. We're trying to give you a shot based on, we think your heart's in the right place, and you're now implementing the help of a professional security team, of attorneys to help you present your applications properly and get the proper permits. unfortunately, that it's way out of order and not necessarily, now we have the benefit of knowing the history of a year, which has been very, very disappointing at the very minimum. If you're in agreement to that, we'd be willing to hold this case in abeyance for 50 days for you to implement this plan, come back and see where we are at. If not, we can proceed to a vote.
My concern on behalf of behaviors of waiting 50 days is I do not want the liquor license transfer to expire, Mr. Miller. And if 50 days is going to cause that to expire, we would not be able to agree to that. If 50 days won't cause that to expire, I'm not so sure we need 50 days with the timetable for the cameras to be installed. The implementation of some of what has already been presented to you has already started, including the service of food and some of the protections, including the no weapons sign and the wanding and the number of security guards. But I'm deeply concerned that if I wait that time frame, that Mr. Valley is going to do his thing and deny this permit because we do not have a conditional use permit. And I don't know what there is to control that, but I would be hard-pressed to represent this good family and let that happen in the interim, where it would be meaningless to come back in 50 days because I don't have a liquor license.
Excuse me, am I wrong to think that after the 50 days were up, and let's say he did deny that, could you not reapply? Is that not the case?
I think that I would have to go to the Ohio Liquor Commission and appeal that.
In Columbus?
Because of a decision made by a hearing officer, which would only be able to be overturned by the 3-member commission in Columbus. And to be perfectly frank with you, and this is in no way meant to be disrespect to my clients, that kind of money for doing that kind of thing, I don't think they have. And what I don't want to do is all the efforts that they put in since, and I know I've heard it's only 45 days, but all the efforts they put in to get to where they are would be defeated if we can't achieve that liquor license.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Since I was at the hearing, I had discussions with Mr. Valley at the hearing. I have already communicated with Mr. Valley's office one time extending this application for 30 days. We thought we could get it on the January meeting for this commission. That did not happen. We got it on for the February meeting. I did not get any negative feedback from Mr. Valley's office. He readily accepted my request for him to delay any decision. At the hearing, he also indicated that we just maintain lines of communication. I have to confess to this board, I am not familiar with an absolute drop-dead date as part of the liquor license transfer obligations with those hearings. If there is such a rule, I am not aware of it, nor have I been made aware of it by Mr. Valley through communication. So on behalf of the city, I would represent to this board that if there was a decision to hold any decision to a subsequent date, I would agree to send a letter to Mr. Valley suggesting that he delay any decision by the Ohio Department of Liquor Control until after this, until after this decision has been made. I'm losing my voice. I apologize. Here.
So if we said 50 days, then you could try to make sure that...
Yeah, I just can't guarantee his response, but I can do this. If he were to respond negatively and tell me that there is a drop-dead date, I would advise this board, I would advise Mr. Matty and Mr. Moran, and we could potentially expedite a return to this forum. And you understand, Mr. Valley, I've had many hearings with him. He's a good communicator. He's been doing this for many years. I trust that if I were getting close to a drop-dead date, he would have already advised my office. I do this for a number of different communities. I handle all the liquor hearings for those communities, and so I'm quite familiar with him. And he's never advised me that there's a limit on his decision-making time.
Thank you very much.
Is that
Thank you,
sufficient,
Mr. Morong.
Mr. Morong and Mr. Matty? Is that sufficient statement?
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
With that, would you be in agreement if we worked with you guys to extend that date if necessary, come back?
Well, look, I spend 98% of my time advising boards like you. And to be honest with you, I see a willingness here to work with my clients. I don't see that all the time. I also see a willingness on behalf of my clients to work with the community and the police department. And so on behalf of my clients, I'm comfortable with that. I'm comfortable that we can come back with all the security cameras up and operating, with all the security guards up and operating, with the food service continuing, and with the operation, how shall I say, as clean as it can be. That's what we're going to try. I've got clients that I know are willing to do that. I have a landowner who's patient enough to allow us to do that. And I think if the commission is going to so rule tonight, the only question I would have is if we are able to do that in advance of your 50 days, we will notify your clerk and feel that we come to you earlier because we feel that we're ready. And if we do that, then you'll understand why that's happening. But I really appreciate all the debate. I appreciate all the comments, because as you can see, some of it is soaking in as you are telling us this, and it'll be our job to try to carry it through for Mr. and Mrs. Weaver. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
If I could just review some notes to see whether or not we have clarity with this applicant. If this were to go to a vote, I had noted the following items for potential contingency. I think it merits discussion on each item. If a representative from the applicant could speak. Certainly I don't think there's any debate that 8 cameras inside would be operational, and I believe 3 outside cameras is the current representation that would be operational.
It will be 7.
It will be 7 outside?
Correct.
So that's 7 outside and 8 inside, and that they would be operational, and that operation would be verified by the police as was requested in their communication with your
Yes,
client this
absolutely.
weekend. The next, is that satisfactory to the board on that issue?
Yes.
Okay. Included in that, though, could we receive some information with regard to retention time to capture, whether they're going to capture those images and keep them available for 1 week, 2 weeks, a month, 3 months? Just if we could get that from whoever installed those cameras. Okay.
The inside cameras are, I think they're a week.
Okay.
The outside cameras will be under.
That's fine, just so that we would then know that, the chief has heard that. The next contingency that I had noticed was to register and bond the appropriate security personnel, and that would be implemented as quickly as possible. And we have an agreement on that.
I believe the police officer will be bonded tomorrow at the
Yeah,
city.
I have a lot of paperwork. I just got to turn and check in tomorrow.
Okay, if we could get that done. Then there seems to be an issue as it relates to parking that we would like to have remedied within this time period. Certainly if Mr. Hoffman's property is not available, if those other people do surface, if you could get an agreement in place that would cover Thursday night, Friday night, and Saturday night with regard to overflow parking. Any question with regard to that? Seeing none. I did not know, and the board can speak to this issue as to bartender training, whether or not I was unfamiliar with Safe Serve certification.
It's more of a food preparation asset to a restaurant that usually holds a food and liquor license. What they're needing, because they have no servers or no kitchen staff, what they have is sufficient.
Okay, so I'll take that off then, and I understand that. If we could then review that protocol as Heather, the Irish girl, indicated. I won't try that ignition or whatever that is, but anyway, whatever Heather, I've known her for a long time, so I can say that. But I think she was quite erudite in her presentation with regard to some of those issues in the protocol. If you could work on a few of them to plug
some of those holes and certainly clarify the use of force and base intervention. Certainly that would be something that my eyebrows raised, and I would want clarified and made definitive. And I believe that was all I had noted as potential contingencies, unless anyone on the board has any other issues that they would like to see addressed at reconvening.
I'd like to just also hear a little more about implementing some of the day-to-day operations here and how those things are going and what you're seeing. It's going to be hard to statistically show much change in 30, 45 days, but for you guys, maybe a bartender, how is that change, by implementing some of these steps, how is that changing the people you have coming in? You can tell pretty quickly in your numbers, hey, women are staying longer, average guest stays instead of 20 minutes, they're now 50 minutes. Average guest ticket went from 1 drink to 2 drinks and wings, So you can start getting some ideas even in just 30 days, comparing them to last month or last year at this time, how implementing some of this stuff is maybe changing your business, hopefully for a safer, better, more enjoyable place that's also more profitable.
So then I would like to make a motion that we hold case 2015 PZ03 in abeyance.
Second.
Until our next meeting, or up to we said 50 days? Up to 50 days.
I second.
Arnold?
Yes.
Deacon, yes. Ostinson?
No.
Jeanette?
Yes.
Weber?
Yes.